us, right? So I was actually born and raised there. And my entire family's over there, but as you all know, it's very small. There's like one highway and not much there. So growing up, everybody knew everybody, and I actually was bullied a lot in school. I know a lot of us have had those moments where we lack our confidence or we're just not feeling our best that day, and I got bullied quite a bit. I got bullied a lot because I actually had a pretty bad unibrow growing up. So on top of having some skin challenges and things like that as well, but I had a pretty bad unibrow. So when I was going to junior high, I decided that I wanted to go get my hair done and actually get some layers put in because I grew up as a tomboy. Like my dad is a coach at our high school there, and we literally don't even call him dad. We can only call him coach. So that's his name. And he raised me as a tomboy, and I wasn't into makeup. I wasn't into beauty. I wasn't into this industry at all. Going to junior high, though, I wanted to feel a little bit better, and so I was like, okay, well, let me go get my hair done. And the first thing my dad said, though, was like, if you put layers in your hair, it better be able to be pulled back into a bun for sports. Otherwise, I'm cutting off your bangs. You can see. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was a little nervous to get my hair done, but I went to somebody amazing, and she actually put some layers in my hair, and it really made me feel a lot more confident. And then within that service, she was sitting there, and she's like, you know what? Why don't we just do your brows real quick, complimentary? And that's when it really transformed my life. When I had my brows done and my hair done, I felt so much more confident. I felt like I could take on junior high, because that was the big thing at the time. And I was really looking forward to it. And then once she did my brows, so I was like, okay, well, what else is out there? I'd never been exposed to makeup. And I went down to a Walgreens, because that's what we had. Sedona doesn't have department stores. We don't have Sephora's. I didn't even know what that was until I moved. And went to Walgreens and picked up some products, and I was able to play with makeup, and it really was like a creative source in the mornings to get up and like kind of do something to put yourself together. Not really covering yourself up, but just expressing yourself, making yourself feel a little bit more confident put together that day. And that's how I really got into this industry. So when I was 18, I packed up my car and I moved out to LA, and I put myself through school in Burbank through makeup designery. And from there, I actually ended up freelancing in the industry, and then I stumbled upon Chella. And then I loved being with Chella so much because Chella, I mean, obviously we work directly with the owner, Chris, and Chella is like a family. Like, that was my family away from Arizona, because I was alone out there. And so whenever you're a part of like the Chella family, whether you end up with our products or you end up retailing our products in your salon and spa, you're really a part of a family. And that's what I was all about. And so I ended up expanding my career within Chella, and now I've traveled all over the world doing brows and educating women. So I've gone all over the world, from like Australia to Asia to Italy, to go and educate women about brows, because that's really what got me started in this industry, and so that's really what I wanted to continue in, and it was my passion. And brows can seriously transform an entire look. And so everybody just kind of like take a moment and think of a time when you had that bad haircut, or you had a bad brow experience, and think about like how that made you feel and how that made your confidence feel that day. And that moment, my whole goal now is to educate women so that nobody has to feel that. Nobody has a bad brow experience. Nobody has that emotion again, because I want to make sure that there's no more unibrows left in the world. So we're able to go ahead and we're going to do a demonstration today, and I'm actually going to have my model, Melissa, come on up here. And how many of us are currently doing brows in our salon or spa? A lot of us, right? How many of us are retailing product? Good job. Brows are so powerful, and it's not just about the way that we wax them. I mean, that's the main point, but it's also about the product that they're putting on after to keep that look and maintain it, and really educate these women on what to do so that we are all educated on how to achieve that perfect brow. So we're going to do a brow mapping right now, and we're going to teach you how to do the 3-point rule in the Chella way, and we're also going to go ahead and do a little bit of grooming. So the first thing I always like to do with my client is I like to take a moment and consult with them to hear their brow experience. So Melissa, tell me about your brows. What do you like and what don't you like?
Well, I have a little regret about in the 90s, so I'm quite thin in the brow area. I also unfortunately have an underactive thyroid, so I lost the tail of my brow as well, which apparently is quite common as we age. And so I have a lot of brow challenges. I even have a few grays coming in too, so I'd love to maybe get rid of those too. So I'm all around brow challenged. I don't like that they fall short here as well as here. And I don't like that you're all looking at me without my eyebrows.
So she gave us a lot of different feedback and concerns, and that's one of the main points about doing brows is just take the time to ask them what they struggle with their brows currently. A lot of women don't do that anymore. We go in and we just get our brows waxed. I can't tell you how many times I've done a brow service and I've just asked them about their brows. Like, nobody's ever asked me this before. But it's so important to get that feedback so we can really understand what struggles they're having at the moment, so we can kind of help and overcome those. So with her, we know that her brows are going to fall a little bit short, so we're going to do some brow mapping. So we're actually going to go ahead and start from mid-nostril to the corner of the eye. This is where the brow should begin. Right? Mid-nostril, straight through her pupil. This is where the arch should be. We're going to make that a mark. And then corner of the nose to corner of the eye. This is where the brow should end. So we want her brows to come further in. And ideally, we would like her brows to come all the way into that mark. Go ahead and turn your head a little bit this way. We want it to come all the way into this mark right here. So a lot of times we have that struggle when the brows aren't coming far enough in, and with that, we can't always necessarily bring the brows this far in without it making it look like it's drawn on. And so when we're thinking about that, we want to actually go for her from the corner of the nose. We're going to lightly press that in and make a mark there. So the majority of the time, you're going to be able to bring your brows that far in, but on some cases, you actually want to bring it into this mark, just because it won't look drawn on or fake in the end. But eventually, you could consult with your client and kind of talk to her, let her know that there are conditioning treatments out there. Chella has some wonderful formulas that are prostaglandin free that she can actually use to help nourish and enhance her natural brows. So we're going to go ahead and then connect our dots. So we're going to go from a point 1 to 2. And then anything outside this line is what can be removed. And then from point 2 to 3. And then we're going to do the same below. So one of my tips for figuring out the thickness of the brow is also to look at the fullness of their lips. If they have fuller lips, a lot of times you can balance that with their brows. So fuller lips can also have fuller brows. And that's like 85% of the time, I would say. So with her lips, they are like a medium fullness, so you want to go ahead and just balance her brows with that. So we're going to do the same below. Anything outside this line, again, is what we removed. And one of the common things I see on brows is that a lot of women will have this like little hook here. See how it goes up there? We actually want that to be a straight line. So you can see how I drew that straight line across there to help with that sparse area. We're going to connect it all the way up to the tail. So now you have a little bit of a brow map. Let me darken that too. Perfect. So you have a brow map now. So now you're ready to begin your grooming process. Now there's so many grooming processes out there. And before I get into that, does anybody have any questions on mapping out brows? Okay. So a couple other tips I'll give you on brow mapping though is also look at the structure of their face. When we're thinking about somebody's face, we also want to look at if they have a rounder face, they could probably handle more of a dramatic arch because they don't have as many angles to their face. If they have a very angular face or strong jawline, you can actually go with a softer arch because you don't want to add another angle and have too many angles on the face. And then if they have an oval face, which is what you're mainly going to be working with, is oval faces. I know we all think we have round faces, but we don't. Majority of us have an oval face, and you actually want to go with like a softer arch. You don't want to go too high because you'll actually make the face look longer and they'll end up looking surprised. And you don't want to go too much of an arch because usually with an oval face they do have a good jawline. So you actually want to go with a softer arch. So with Melissa, she has an oval face. So that's why we went with kind of an in-between softer arch. So we've done our brow map, and now we can go ahead and even out to the other side. So I'm going to do this one really quick. Then nostril through this pupil, or the nose to the eye. The more you do your brow maps, the faster it will become for you. So brow mapping is something really simple. But I do this every time before I start begin grooming anybody's brows, because then I can make sure the brows are even. And even though this takes me about 30 seconds to do on my client, she now knows what areas she can work on, because you could also show her the map. And then you also want to show her the map so you can say anything outside this line is what would be removed, everything inside is staying. Are you comfortable with that? So that kind of ensures you to be able to have that perfect grooming experience every time, but also make sure that your clients come completely confident. And it actually ends up speeding up your service, because now you're not sitting there trying to figure out what hairs to remove as you're applying wax or as you're tweezing. You're able to just do it quickly because you have the map, you know what to remove, and it ends up being a little bit faster. So brow mapping is crucial, and a lot of people aren't doing the brow mapping. But some of my tips, so I'm actually going to move your head right here. So I want you to be able to see. As I line up, I want to see if this arch is just as high as this one, because a lot of times when we're looking at our brows, especially when our clients start to talk to us, we'll notice one of the brows ends up being higher than the other. So one of my tips to evening that out is you want to go from the top of this arch with your pencil and actually just go straight across. And I can actually see that this arch is just a little bit higher on the other side. So I can kind of make a mark to make sure that I get that even. So now I know this arch needs to be a little bit higher. Same with right here. If I want them to be even when they're lining up down here, I can go straight across from the bottom right there and go straight to the bottom down here. And I know this bottom isn't quite as low as this bottom. And the same with the top part. You can go straight from here, go straight across, and those are pretty close to even in the tops are. So some of those tips help you even out the brow, making sure that it's going to be even on both sides. But remember, no matter what, brows are not twins, they're sisters. So they're never going to be exactly the same. I always say, like, as long as they're not like distant cousins, you're still in a good realm. So they should be somewhat the same, but never exactly perfect. But we all have that. So I know it's a lot of insecurities for a lot of women, is that one of our brows is higher than the other, and naturally that's just us. It makes us unique. So we've gotten her brow map completely even. We're happy with it. Now we can actually go into a light grooming process. So the grooming process I'm going to show you today is going to be including the Cella Toolkit, which has a small razor, scissors, and tweezers. Now, we all know there's different methods out there, waxing, threading, you could tweeze, whatever you prefer to do. This method is one that we like to do so we can educate our clients also how to maintenance, because in a perfect world, we can tell them, please don't touch your brows at home. But they're most likely going to. So if they have the proper tools, the proper education, at least they're not going to give themselves giant holes. And you can also retail this to your clients, so they do have the proper tools. So we're going to go ahead and begin with our grooming. So Cella uses a small razor tool to clean up above the brow. Has anybody used the little razor tool before? No? So the little razor tool, some people get nervous because they're worried that the hair is going to grow back thicker. How the hair follicle actually works is when you tweeze it out over and over again, you're damaging that follicle. So it may or may not grow back. Same with waxing, threading, you're pulling that out from the root and you're damaging it. So when you're actually removing with a razor, you're removing at the base right there, so you're not damaging it. So if you ever choose to have your brows grow back into a different shape, or want to change them up, or you just don't want your clients permanently damaging their brows at home, they're able to do a light maintenance with this at home. And this is usually done like once a week. I have a lot of women also who travel, and they love this small tool because they can use it in between their services for like upper lip or the chin, anywhere they need to just kind of touch up. And a lot of men actually love this tool because they don't usually like to be tweezed or waxed, but all the wives want to clean up their brows right in the middle. This is great for them to do that without any pain. So what we're going to do is we're going to lightly pull her skin top, and we're going to go into a downward motion. And you get a really clean I don't go against the grain, I don't go below, because the hairs below are a little bit thicker, and so you will notice that thicker middle piece growing back first, but the hairs above are usually very fine, and you can clean up with this perfectly. It also has an attachable comb and razor, and brush on it, so you're able to brush the hairs up, and then you can trim out anything that needs to be trimmed. Anything that's going to fall outside the line. So she has a couple hairs in the front there that can be lightly trimmed. Chella does have great scissors that have a safety so that clients don't ever poke themselves, or we don't want our clients. And they do have that safety so they're able to trim the hairs easily. So we're just going to lightly press it against the skin, trim behind. So you're going to notice I actually never hold a spoolie or something right here and hold these hairs up, because what that does is all this excess hair that could be trimmed if you're holding it there, but that could cause and create a lot of holes in the brow. So you don't want to hold something in front of the brow where you're blocking yourself from seeing a hole that could be created from trimming too short. You always want to brush up and then trim. So just keep brushing and trimming anything that goes outside the line. Alright, so our final step, we've done our trimming, we've done our razor, and now we're going to do some light tweezing. So the Chella's tweezers are non-slip grip and they have an O-ring, so they're really easy to use. And when we're tweezing, some of my tips are to hold the skin taut, and wherever your thumb is holding it taut, that's where you can tweeze. So you don't want to hold the skin taut over here and be tweezing up here. You want to hold it, if I'm going to tweeze up here, I'm going to put my thumb right there, place a little bit of pressure, and then tweeze there. She doesn't have too much to tweeze right now, but those are some of my tips with tweezing, is wherever you're pulling the skin taut, that's where you want to tweeze right below it. If you're pulling the skin taut out here and tweezing up here, it's very painful. You want to pull the skin taut lightly, not too much, lightly, right where you need to tweeze. Does anybody have questions on the grooming aspect? All right. So our final step with our brow service today is actually the how to brow in 3 easy steps. So this is where all of it's at. Is basically you want to fill in the brows, highlight them, and define them. So our steps are fill, define, and highlight. So it's 3 easy steps to finish your client's brows, because we don't want to just wax their brows and tweeze them and then let them walk out the door. We want to actually finish the brows. We want to finish them with a product, the finishing the service. So it is a more of an elevated service that way, and a lot of salons or spas are jumping on the brow trend and doing this. Even if they're not even tweezing brows that day and they're doing a facial or they're doing a haircut, they're able to still fill in their client's brows with any service that you're doing, because it allows you to have that aspect moment of like having a retail, but it also gives your client that finished look. So there's been plenty of times where I've gotten a facial, my face is so red and I don't want anybody to see me, so I run out the door into my car and go straight home. But if my person had taken a moment, maybe filled in my brows, done a little lip gloss or something, I would have felt more confident and put together when walking out the door. And it's something so simple and easy, it takes us 30 seconds to do, and it really elevates our services that way. And when we're doing that, we want to think about what's the first thing somebody notices when they meet us. It's going to be our eyes, and our brows are framing that. So our brows are framing our eyes, and so we want to make sure that they're always polished and put together and neatly groomed. And now we want to finish off the service with the how to brow in 3 easy steps. So our first step is to fill. So Chella has 2 different products you can fill with. We have a Chella eyebrow cream, or we have a Chella eyebrow pencil. The Chella brow cream is what I'm going to start with. So we're actually going to use both products today, because most of my clients, I like to use a cream first because it's very water resistant, locks it in, and then I like to use a pencil to add some detail work into there so I can get that feathery, natural brow. So the Chella brow cream, I will pass a couple around, but basically what it is, it has the cream on the bottom here, so you can expose the product, and then it has a brush on the top. So the brush is an angled brush, so you're able to get in there and really define the brow. And I'm going to scoop a little bit out so I can use it on the back of the lid and work off the back, because I don't want to double dip into the pot, but I do want want to be able to pick up more product without having to sanitize my brush every time. So I just put a little bit on the lid like that. And then just remember when we're passing these around that there is the lid side and there's the cream side. So a lot of people accidentally mistake and jam the brush into the bottom all the way, thinking that that was the lid. It's not. Just twist back on the bottom and put the lid back on. Perfect. So what I'm using right now is I'm going to use our beautiful blonde, which is going to be lighter than the pencil shade I'm going to pick up. And I'm going to pick up a small amount of product. I'm going to go ahead and place the product all the way through the bottom of the brow. So I'm really applying the most pressure right here in the arch of the tail. This is where I want the most product to be. So that's where I like to place my brush first with the most pressure. This is arch to the tail to really define that. And then whatever excess is left on my brush, I'm going to go ahead and feather through the front. So now the front of the brow should always be the lightest part of the brow. We don't want the front to get too dark and heavy up here. And the reason for that is when the front of the brow gets too dark, it can kind of actually pull down the look as opposed to keeping it open and light and natural. Naturally, the front of our brows are just a little bit lighter than the arch to tail with just the way the hair grows. And so we want to keep that when we're filling it. We want the front to be a little bit lighter and then for it to get darker through the arch to tail, and that will give you the perfect lift to the brow. So this product is water resistant. It comes in the 6 different shades. I'm using our beautiful blonde, but it's going to stay on all day. And the nice thing about this product is it goes on really, really light and natural, but it's going to stay on all day. So it's not going to come off in a couple hours. You have about 2 minutes to work with it, blend it out, and then after 2 minutes it sets and then it's locked on all day long. It's water resistant, so it's really going to stay on. Now we're going to go ahead and take one of our brow pencils. Our brow pencils are a wax-based pencil. They have a really fine tip, so they're able to get hair-like strokes. They do have a spoolie at the end. All right, this one around here. So I'm actually going to take our tantalizing taupe, which is a couple shades darker than our blonde. Perfect. And I'm going to create some feathery hairs in the front of her brow here. So some light, fine lines creating those hair-like strokes. And now you can definitely just use the cream or just use the pencil and not use both, but I do find it looks more natural using both products. So this is step 1, which is to fill in the brow. And now step 2 is going to be defining with our clear defining gel. And the way you want to define the brows with this is going to hold everything in place, hold the hairs in place so nothing moves. But you want to actually lift these hairs in an upward motion as opposed to just going in and going straight across. If you go straight across, it doesn't really lift the brow. We actually want to lift it. And then you can lightly, anything that's outside the line, you can lightly touch the top of those hairs over to get them to lay back down. But you don't want to just go straight across. That's not really defining and lifting the brow. And then our final step in our How to Brow in 3 Easy steps is to highlight. So highlighting the brow, we want to highlight it all the way below. And then we want to highlight just above the arch and tail. Does anybody currently highlight their brows? Right? It's the big trend in the industry right now. It's to highlight everything. So we definitely want to highlight the brows, and Chella has some really amazing formulas. A lot of people have actually heard of our highlighters being in Ipsy's and BoxyCharms and Birchboxes. They're incredibly popular and have hundreds of thousands of positive reviews. These are a really great product because they're also versatile. So not only can I highlight her brow, but I can also highlight the other areas of her face because this is a satin, or it's a matte finish. It's going to stay on all day. So I'm passing around some of our darker shades that you can see, but our number 1 selling shade is the one that I'm using on Melissa right now, which is our Ivory Lace. Now now we're going to take our dual blending brush, which has been specifically designed to carve out the brow with our highlighter. It has a spoolie on one side, and it also has this brush on the other side. So we're going to take this and we're going to carve out her brow. And I'm just lightly blending out the highlighter, making it really natural. I'm going to go ahead and blend out that front line that I made when I initially mapped out her brows. But it's not there anymore. And I'm just carving out the arch. You can see how this brush is kind of curving and turning with this brow. And the highlighter is really where you can perfect the brow, make it completely perfect, exactly what you want. It's such a powerful moment to actually show your client in the mirror and do the one side first with the fill, define, and highlight, and then do the other side, because they end up having this moment where they're like, wow, that's amazing. How did you do that? And then you take the next 30 to 60 seconds filling in the second brow and explaining it to them. And now, not only are you able to just fill in the brow like this, but you're also able to retail them the product in a custom kit just for them. So the Cella has 2 different custom kits. It's the How to Brow Custom Eyebrow Cream Kit or How to Brow Custom Eyebrow Pencil Kit. So these kits will contain each step, so the fill, define, and highlight, and then you choose between cream or pencil, and then you're able to choose their highlighter color and their fill color. And the kits are available for purchase for anybody that wants just to purchase it for themselves today at our booth, which is booth 1015. Or you can also take the opportunity to end up retailing product to your clients and actually put this kit in their hand so they're able to touch it and feel it and experience the entire finished brow. So,
We're just going to let Melissa take a quick little lap so you can all kind of see the before and after. What's going on.
We'll pass that around. You pass that one around.
Yeah.
So that's the Cella How to Brow in 3 easy steps. So it's just fill, define, and highlight. And it's super easy and simple to do, and it's really simplifying the process for your clients for when they are at home. Because all the details I gave you today come in step-by-step instructions inside the box for your client. So a lot of times they'll say, I wish I could take you home with me because it looks so good. But they kind of can by having our instructions in that box. And Cella also has some amazing YouTube videos too for your clients to go look at after. Does anybody have any questions? So wholesale pricing depends on the ordering. So we actually have some trade show specials today to open up an account with us. And so we do have a couple opportunities for everybody. You can either go back to our booth as soon as the show opens. We're able to do a quick brow makeover on you and fill, define, and highlight your brows so you can get your own custom kit today. Or if anybody's interested in talking more about retailing the product and some wholesale pricing, you can definitely come up to myself, Chris, Sarah, Melissa, and we're able to talk about that with you today to get you started on really enhancing your brow business. Do we have, we don't really have a minimum. But do you want to embellish on that a little bit? We don't.
Just to quickly answer the question, basically, any order above 250 is 50% off. So in terms of wholesale, 100% markup. It's lower than that, then it's 40% off. And we have, as Kayla said, some great trade stuff specials to get you displayed and tested for free by being able to make an order. We'll share this with you.
Yeah. Any other questions today? Yes. Shipping to Alaska.
We actually have a couple clients in Alaska, so it's not a problem. Yeah. No extra charges.
Okay. Any other questions?
Will you clarify the inner part?
Yeah. Melissa, will you come back up here? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and clarify our how to brow, our brow mapping. So when I was talking about brow mapping with Melissa, go ahead and turn your head a little bit that way. There. We wanted to go from mid nostril to majority of the time where you're gonna go ahead and be able to make a mark and get that perfect brow shape, because we do want the brows to come further in. It does help slim the nose, it helps complement our features a little bit, but there's some people out there where their brows are already a little bit farther apart and you can't always bring it that far in. So what I like to do for those clients is I actually like to go from mid-nostril, lightly push it, or sorry, from corner of the nose, lightly push it into that nostril, and then corner of the eye, and I'll make a mark right there. And that's where I did Melissa's brows, because her brows are a little bit so far apart that I can't bring them as far in as I actually wanted to, but I am able to get them a little bit further on and still making it look like they're not filled in. Sorry, Melissa, are you on blast there about your brows? Okay, that's a good question. Did you have any other questions on that part? No? Anybody else?
So the ideal is from the inside.
Yes, the ideal mark for your brows is from mid-nostril straight through the pupil. This is where your brow should begin. So. Any other questions on that?
Then you would measure it from this point?
Yeah, I can go through them all. So we're gonna go from mid-nostril straight through your pupil, which looks straight ahead. There you go. And we're gonna go straight through her pupil, and that's where her arch should be, which it does arch there naturally. A common mistake in that point that I see is that the arches will actually come too far in, and we don't want our arches to come too far in. So that's why it's really important to go from mid-nostril through her pupil and arch it there. We want it to kind of balance her cheekbones too. So you can look at the way her cheekbones are lifting, that's where her brow's lifting too. And then the last point is from corner of the nose to corner of the eye, and this is where the brow should be ending. So a lot of brow tails do fall short, so sometimes we do have to extend those a little bit. Just be careful not to go too far. All of these step-by-step instructions are in the handouts today too, so you're able to refer to our handout and have those notes.
What about color selection?
So color selection, normally I like to use two shades. So I don't like to just go in with one solid brow color. I like to go in with like a base. So I like to go in with one a little bit lighter. And on Melissa, I did blonde. And then on myself, I would do like the tantalizing taupe. But I go in with a second shade. So with Melissa, I went in with taupe. And then if I was doing like myself, I would go in with the second shade of dark brown. That way I can get some dimension and depth to the brows, and they're not just one flat color, because naturally we have different colors and dimensions in our hair, and we want that to balance with our brows. There's a lot of different trends out there with the color selection. I always recommend going lighter and then gradually getting darker, because the best thing is that your client's like, oh, you know what, this is a little too light, and then it's fun, because you get to build it up and play with more products and add some more color. But it's harder to go from clients saying it's too dark and then take them lighter. So, but Cella does have 6 different shades, so you are able to get the perfect match for anybody. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, if anybody does want to talk to us about some wholesaling opportunities, please come see us. And if anybody wants to just purchase a kit for themselves, we're at booth 1015. We also did give you all a little survey. If you don't mind just filling out the survey, and when you turn it into us, I do have a free product for you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.